Okay, this is the answer key video for 10.2, 10.3 review worksheet. All right, we're going to start by simplifying the square root of 32. So we're going to go ahead and break it down. It doesn't really matter how you break it down. So you could do like 2 and 16, and then your 16 could be like 2 and 8, 2 and 4, and 2 and 2. And there's a lot of other ways to break this down, but go ahead and just group up, right? Pair up and move out. So 2 times 2 is 4. And then you have this 2 right here left over. So you have the square root of 2 left on the inside. And that's your answer. All right, number 2, we're going to break down 8. We'll go to 2 and 4. And then 2 and 2. 2's pair up and move out. So you have 2 on the outside, a 2 left over on the inside, because this guy didn't have a buddy, so he's left in the inside. Now your variables, you have 4 a's. So you're going to pair them up and move them out. So you're going to have 2 pairs there for a squared. B to the third, pair them up, move them out. So to put a b on the outside and a b on the inside. And that's your final answer. Okay, on this guy, we're going to go ahead and break down 27 to 3 and 9. And then 9 would go to 3 and 3. So we pair and move out the 3's. So 4 times 3 is 12 on the outside. And then you have this 3 left over on the inside. So 12 root 3 is your answer. All right, number 4. Okay, in this case, the square root of 100 is 10. So I already know that really this is just saying 5 times 10 or 50 on the outside. Now, we still have to look at the variables, though. If I look at the x, nothing pairs up and moves out there. So the x has to stay on the inside. Now, your y squared, there are 2 y's. Pair them up, move them out. You get 1 y left on the outside, and that's going to be your solution. On number 5 here, you're going to add like square roots. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put together this guy right here. So negative 2 plus 3 would be 1 root 2. Again, we're just putting together like square roots. And then this guy, there was no other square roots of 5, so it's just minus 3 root 5. Now, again, keep in mind, it is optional. I don't care if you put the 1 out there or not. Number 6, okay, before we can try to add, we have to break things down first. So I'm going to go ahead and take this to 4 and 5, and then this will go to 2 and 2. So the 2's pair up and move out, so you're going to get 2 root 5. Now plus root 5, and then the 45 will go to 5 and 9, and then the 9 will go to 3 and 3. So the 3's pair up and move out, so I get 3 root 5. All right, and so now just keep in mind there is a 1 there in front, so we're going to go ahead and just add them up. So 2 plus 1 plus 3 is 6. So my final answer is going to be 6 square root 5. Okay, number 7. Again, we're going to start by breaking this down. So this will go to 2 and 9, and the 9 will go to 3 and 3. 3's pair up and move out, so 3 times 3 is 9, root 2. The 18 will be the same thing again, so 2 and 9, and then 3 and 3. The 3's will pair up and move out, so 2 times 3 is 6, root 2. Okay, again, we have the 2's left over, right? That's where the inside 2's are coming from. And then we have the last guy here, it's already broke down, so 3 root 2. So now we're going to add up like square roots. So I'm going to take the 9 plus the 6 plus the 3. So 9 plus 6 is 15. Plus 3 more will be 18 root 2. Okay, number 8. All right, the square root of 6 breaks down to 2 and 3, but nothing will pair up and move out there. So this guy's just going to stay as is. All right, 54, let's see, I know 2 will go in there, so it'll be 2 and 27. 27 will break down to 9 and 3, and then the 9 will break down to 3 and 3. So the 3's pair up and move out for negative 9. Now I do have a 2 and a 3 left, so 2 times 3 is 6. I'm going to go ahead and move down this negative 3 root 6 here. And we'll just erase this guy. All right. Then on the last one here, excuse me, we've got negative square root of 2. All right, so now combine like square roots. So I'm going to put these guys together. So negative 3 and negative 9 is negative 12 root 6. And then minus the square root of 2 drops in. And that's going to be my final answer. Okay, on number 9 here. Come on, little guy. All right, so we're going to get 2 times 8. So since they're both inside, you can multiply them. So we're going to get square root of 16, and then the square root of 16 is just 4. Okay, number 10. All right, so we're going to have to go ahead and multiply 21 times 8. So 18. So I'm going to get the square root of 378. Now I'm going to put together my variables. Again, side by side, we're going to add, so it's going to be n to the 4th. All right, so now I know that this will break down to 21 and 18 because that's what I multiplied to get there. So now the 21 will go to 3 and 7. The 18 will go to 2 and 9, and then 3 and 3. So we have a set of 3s that are going to move out. So I have a 3 on the outside. And then when I'm looking here, the 3, the 7, and the 2, well, nothing pairs up and moves out. So 3 times 7 is 21, times 2 more would be 42. Now look at your variables. You have 4 n's. So pair them up, move them out. So you're going to have n squared on the outside. No n's left over on the inside. Okay, number 11, we're going to go ahead and start by distributing on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute and get negative 8 root 35. And again, I'm multiplying outside numbers with other outside numbers and then inside with inside. Okay, so then on the second part here, when I distribute this, I'm going to get a minus 4, because keep in mind there's a 1 there, so you're just taking negative 4 times 1, square root, and then 35 times 15 will be 525. Okay, now the 35 will break down to 5 and 7, but nothing will pair up and move out. On the 525 here, I know I multiplied 35 and 15 to get there, so that's where I'm going to go back to. And then this will break to 5 and 7, and this will break to 3 and 5. So I do have a pair of 5s right here that need to move out. So 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And then on the inside here, I've got the 7 and 3 still kind of left over. So on the inside, I'm going to have a 21. Then over here, I still have a negative 8 root 35. Now I cannot add these up because these are different square roots. And that's going to be your answer right there. Okay, number 12. I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So I'm going to get negative 8 root 6 and distribute here, negative 4 root 36. So then the square root of 36 is 6. And so here I'm going to get a negative 24. And then I've got negative 8 root 6 still out front here. So the 6 would go to 2 and 3. Nothing will pair up and move out. So that's going to be my answer right there. Okay, number 13. I'm going to go ahead and FOIL this out. So I'm going to multiply here and get 12. I'm going to multiply here and get plus 4 root 6. I'm going to multiply here and get negative 6 root 6. And then I'm going to multiply here and get negative 2 root 36. All right, so then negative 2 times 6 would be negative 12. Now in this case, 12 minus 12 will cancel out. So now I'm putting together the square roots of 6. In this case, keep in mind it goes to 2 and 3, but nothing will pair up and move out. So 4 minus 6 is negative 2 root 6. Okay, number 14. I'm going to go ahead and distribute here. And so I'm going to get the square root of 36, the square root of 18, the square root of 30, and then the square root of 15. Okay, so now on the 36, that's going to go to a 6. 18 will go to 2 and 9, and then 3 and 3. So 3s are going to pair up and move out. So plus 3 root 2. On 30, it's going to go to like 5 and 6, 2 and 3. Nothing's going to pair up and move out there. So you're still going to have the square root of 30 here. And it'll be the same thing with the 15, 3 and 5, but nothing's going to pair up and move out. So I'm going to have the square root of 15 left. And this is going to be your final answer because you can't combine any of the square roots since they're not the same. All right, going on to number 15 here, some review from semester 2. All right, so on this one, we are finding slope-intercept form. So keep in mind that that's y equals, right, mx plus b. So my starting position here will be at 3. So, not m, how about b equals 3? All right, and then to find another working guy here, I'm going to do rise and run. So I'm going to rise 5 and run over 4. So my slope when I do rise over run will be 5/4. So my equation is going to be y equals 5/4 x plus 3. Okay, 16. We want slope-intercept form, but we were given 2 coordinate points. So when we're given 2 coordinate points, keep in mind we need to find the slope. So that would be your y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to get m equals 5 minus 1 over 2 minus negative 2. So when I do that, I'm going to get 4 over 4, which is the same thing as 1. Now keep in mind, I'm going to do a point slope. Since I have a point and a slope, I'm going to start in point slope, and then I'll take it to slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So it doesn't matter which coordinate point you use. I'm going to go ahead and just use the 2, 5 since it's right there. I'm going to get y minus my y value, which is 5, my slope, which is 1, x minus my x value, which is 2. Okay, so again, I'm just using this guy right here and plugging the y and the x in. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and distribute that 1 through. So I'm going to get y minus 5 equals x minus 2. And now let's go ahead and add that 5 over. So y equals x plus 3. Okay, number 17. All right, we want perpendicular. Okay, so I need the perpendicular slope here. So my perpendicular slope, again, flip it and change the sign. So it's going to be negative 3/2. All right, and then throw that guy out. So now I got a point and a slope. Let's start in point slope. So y minus 3 equals negative 3/2 x plus 4. Okay, let's go ahead and distribute. So y minus 3 equals negative 3/2 x minus 6. And then I'm going to add the 3 over. So when I do that, I'm going to get y equals negative 3/2 x minus 3 for my final answer. Number 18, all right, graphing systems of inequalities here. So I need solid and dotted and shading and all the funness there. Okay, so on this first one here, I'm going to go ahead and make this guy the blue guy. So I'm going to start at negative 3. A slope of negative 2 would be down 2, right 1. And then I'm going to go in the other direction there to get some points going. Okay, it is going to be a solid line here. Okay, and then when I'm looking at my sign, this says greater than. So greater than would be everything going up from your start position. Okay, on the next one here, let's go ahead and start at a plus 2, and then down 1 over 3, up 1 this way 3. It is going to be a dotted line. All right, and then looking at my sign, it says less than. So less than would be everything below that start position. Okay, and then keep in mind your final answer is wherever that kind of purpley gray area is here, where do they overlap? So that would be my final answer. Number, let's see, 19 here. Okay, this says solve by substitution. So I'm going to take this guy and plug it in for the y. So I get negative 2x plus 3. I've got x minus 2 equals 2. I'm going to go ahead and distribute negative 2x plus 3x minus 6 equals 2. So I end up with x minus 6 equals 2, and then add the 6 over, and I get an 8. Now, I do have to take this and plug it back in so that I can get my y value out. So y will equal 8 minus 2, or y equals 6. So my coordinate point is 8, 6. Okay, so we've got a word problem here. We're looking at sugar dough cookies and oatmeal cookie. All right, so remember each sentence a lot of times is an equation here. So if I'm looking, I've got 2 packages of sugar cookies, 4 packages of oatmeal, total 54. So as far as my variables go, I'm going to use S for the sugar. So cost of sugar. And then I'm not going to use O. I'm just going to put an M for oatmeal, only because I don't want my O to look like a 0. So this will be cost of oatmeal. Okay. And so then we said we had 2 sugar, right? So 2 sugars, 4 oatmeals, and that total was $54. All right, so now I need to look at my second equation here. 9 sugar, 2 oatmeal, $67. Okay, so 9 sugar, 2 oatmeals. So 9 sugar, 2 oatmeal, and that was a total of $67. Okay, so when I'm looking at this guy, I'm going to be doing elimination. And I think I'm going to go ahead and get my m's to cancel. So to get my m's to cancel, I'm going to multiply this guy by -2. So I'm going to have 2s plus 4m equals 54. And then I'm going to multiply by -2 and get -18s, -4m, and then 67 times 2 being -134. The 4m's will cancel, so I'm going to get -16s equals -80. And then when I divide by 16, I get S equals 5. So it's $5 for sugar. Okay, now I'm going to take this and plug it back in. I'm just going to do the top one. So 2 times 5 plus 4m equals 54. So 2 times 5 is 10 plus 4m equals 54. Subtract the 10 off and get 44, and then divide and get 11. All right, so sugar cookies are $5, and then the oatmeal cookies would be $11. Okay, exponent review. All right, so side by side we add. Now anything to the 0 power is 1, so we go ahead and just cross that off. I'm going to go ahead and add my a's up, and so when I add them here, 2 plus -1, I get a 1. So I've got 3, B, and then A to the first. Order's not important here, just as long as you got all the parts. Okay, on 22, I'm going to drop that 4 into all the parts. Okay, so there's a 1 there and a 1 there, so I'm going to drop it into all 3 parts and get 4 to the 4th, A to the 4th, and then B to the 8th because we're multiplying. Now, 4 to the 4th is 256, and then A to the 4th, B to the 8th, and that's going to be your final answer. Okay, on 23, negative exponent, go ahead and drop it down. So m to the thirds is going to stay on top. The 2 stays on the bottom. And then I had 1 here. I bring down 3 more, so I now have 4 on the bottom level. All right, on this guy, let's go ahead and distribute that negative through and get -k squared, a positive 2k, and a positive 7. Now when you do that, go ahead and get rid of all that. So k squared minus k squared cancels out. -5k plus 2k is -3k. And then 2 plus 7 is 9. All right, on the next one here, I'm going to go ahead and distribute and get 15r squared minus 30r minus 18r and then plus 36. So now go ahead and combine like terms here and get 15r squared minus 48r plus 36. All right, 26, we're going to factor. So this is 4-term grouping. So I'm going to go ahead and group it off. Now my first grouping here, I get a 7 and an n squared. And so that'll give me 3n minus 4. On the second part here, I'm going to pull out a 6 and get 3n minus 4. So now rewrite the outside, 7n squared plus 6, and then write down your inside of 3n minus 4. And that's going to be your answer there. 27, okay, this is a hot mess, so let's just pull a GCF out. So I can pull a 6 and an x squared out. I'm going to get a 4 y to the third, 9y squared, and then a plus 5x when I do that. All right, last page, number 28 here. Okay, on this one, again, we're just going to pull a GCF out. So you can pull out an n and get n minus 8. And that's all you can do there on that one. Okay, on number 29 here, I'm looking for factors of negative 20, factors of negative 27 that get me negative 6. So that would be negative 9 and 3. So I'm going to get a minus 9 and a plus 3. Okay, number 30. Okay, so we've got a number out front, so let's go ahead and start our list. So we get 1 times 3, 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. All right, I'm looking for a 16. Okay, so if I look here, 1 times 10 is 10. 3 times 2 is 6. And then if I make them both negatives, that gets me negative 16 here in the middle. And then a double negative would get me a positive out here. So that's going to work out for us. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a 1-3 combo in front, 1 in and 3 in. On the back side, I'm getting 2 and 10. And then we already talked about that they'll both be negatives. All right, number 31. Okay, this is difference of squares. So remember, we're looking for can I square root, do I have subtraction, and can I square root? So the square root of 49 is 7v minus 4, and then 7v plus 4. Okay. All right. Number 32. All right, so solve by factoring. So let's go ahead and set equal to 0 first. Remember, always set equal to 0. So k squared plus 10k plus 16 equals 0. So now I'm looking for factors of 16 that get me 10. So 2 times 8 kind of pops in there. So I'm going to get k plus 2, k plus 8 equals 0. So now that they're both set equal to 0, go ahead and solve them. Okay, so now I'm going to subtract the 2 over and get negative 2. I'm going to subtract the 8 over and get negative 8. So your answers are negative 2 and negative 8. Okay, number 33, again, we're going to go ahead and set equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract the 11p over to the other side and get 2p squared minus 11p plus 14 equals 0. So I get 1 times 2, 1 times 14, 2 times 7. All right, so now I'm looking inside, outside. Let's see, so how about 1 times 7 would be 7, 2 times 2 would be 4. And if I make them both negative, that gets me the negative here, but a negative times a negative get me a positive here, so that's going to work. Okay, so my factors here are going to be 1, 2 split up front here. And then on the back side, I've got a 2, 7 combo, and then we already know that they're negatives. So I have got p minus 2 equals 0, and 2p minus 7 equals 0. So now p will equal 2. And then on this one, I'm going to add the 7 over first, and then divide by 2 and get 7 halves. So I get 7 halves and 2. All right, on 34, solve using the quadratic. Okay, so keep in mind that we're looking for the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. That's not right. How about 2a, not 4? Okay, all right, so now my a value is 4, my b value is 11, and my c value is 6. So I've got x equals, the opposite of b would be negative 11 plus or minus 11 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times 4. All right, so now let's type inside the square root first. So I'm going to put this guy in my calculator first. So 11 squared minus 4 times 6. So that ends up being 25. Oops. So I get x equals negative 11 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 8. And then the square root of 25 is just 5. So it's negative 11 plus or minus 5 divided by 8. So now I'm going to go ahead and break that into my two separate problems. Negative 11 plus 5, divide that by 8, and negative 11 minus 5, and divide that by 8. All right, so negative 11 plus 5 would be negative 6/8, which reduces to negative 3/4. On this one, I'm going to get a negative 16/8, which is going to give me a negative 2. So my answer here will be negative 3/4 and negative 2. And that concludes this answer key.